Welcome to the Weekly Wednesday Warrior, sponsored by Power Card Games, a comic support, bright and shiny Power Port you in New York. My name is Skylar Hathaway.
I'm Chris Potter.
How you doing, Chris?
Doing alright today? How you doing,
Good. I'm doing alright. We got some interesting action figures in front of us.
Yeah, man.
This is not a Dragon Ball Z character, for those of you that aren't familiar with Dragon Ball Z. This is a Daredevil, not a Saiyan. Monkey, monkey, devil, monkey.
Two monkeys in one suit.
Shit. Alright, back to the task at hand here. We got Local Man, number 2 is up on the docket first. I got the variant covered by Tim Seeley. You got the regular cover by Todd Nalick and whoever does the stuff around that. Oh, what am I doing? I forgot my notes. Real quick, Weekly Wednesday Warriors, I'm going to get my notes. Chris, would you start the summary?
Sure. So, Local Man picks up where we left off. Crossjack's villain has just been killed in prison. Now Crossjack is being questioned.
Hodag!
The Hodag. Crossjack is being questioned for that crime, goes into the prison, and he meets, last issue he hung out with his childhood girlfriend at their bar.
Inga!
Yeah.
Who wants to take over the world with donuts.
Yes.
Fucking probably...
Donuts and breakfast sandwiches.
Probably literally called the morning quickie.
Yes. Yeah. And, the cop questioning him is her husband, so he calls Inga in to verify what he was doing last night at the time of Hodag's murder. So he goes. Inga presumably comes in. We cut ahead from that.
No, it's a phone call.
It's a phone call. She
clears him. The detective's name is Brian. It's her husband, like Chris said.
Yeah.
And the way they pull our main character Jack into the situation, he's like asleep and he gets woken up by the cops at his parents' door.
Yeah. Kind
of awkward, kind of embarrassing for his parents and stuff, who just took this, who we find out more accurately is an adulterer, into their house. But yeah, Chris is right. He's cleared of all charges because he's got a pretty good alibi of what he was doing during the death of the Hodag. And then what does he do after he gets out of jail there, Chris?
Well, the first thing he does is put on some pants, because he hasn't been wearing pants this entire
and he leaves his mom's coat at the jail somewhere.
Yeah. And he goes back to his house, and he's talking to this robot thing he accidentally shot last issue. He shoots it with an arrow, because he's like... he's Crossjack, he can hit anything, so he's kind of trying to...
We thought it was like a Skeets kind of robot thing, but it turns out it's basically a security droid that's to follow him.
It's a walking lawsuit.
That got put... Yeah, that's funny. That got put there... It got put there by the people, by CrossGen, I think is his old team. Just to keep an eye on him, make sure he doesn't do anything unsavory in regards to CrossGen.
More importantly, make sure he doesn't violate any of their terms and conditions, which it's not even just unsavory things, it's more like basic hero stuff.
Yeah.
And after that, he goes to talk to the Hodag's mother, who's living in like a trailer community.
Yeah, and she's pleasant.
She's very empathetic.
She's very pleasant.
And we learn a bit more about Crossjack and the Hodag's relationship, and that they kind of had like they had a friendly relationship to some extent, because the Hodag, he was a villain, but he kind of understood that Crossjack wouldn't take it too far, and they were kind of like...
Remember, like wrestling.
Yeah, no, he was the heel for Crossjack.
Yeah.
He was the person to prop him up. We even...
and Crossjack looked better because of Hodag.
Yeah. There's some implication that probably Hodag did what he did to make Crossjack look better, and especially because he has this very good relationship with his mother. And we find out Hodag was a little off last issue, and we find out that's because he has brain damage from the leader of CrossGen. When the Hodag moved up a peg to move up with Crossjack, he joined this villain team, and as part of his time in this villain team, he suffered severe brain damage fighting the leader of CrossGen.
Camo Crusader!
Yeah, and is now he lived with his mother until his death in this town, because he couldn't help himself anymore. she says spinal fluid was leaking out of his nose, like when she found him.
So
Such a gross and saddening visual.
Terrible.
The other thing, though, is his mom knows how to deactivate the droid because they sued the company a couple years ago for like invading their privacy. He was brain dead. There was no reason for them to be monitoring him the way they were.
Well, I don't know if there was a lawsuit, but they were monitoring him. I think there was. Oh, I think you're right. I think there was a lawsuit, but I don't know.
And
But in the process of being monitored for so long, they figured out a way around this thing, and there was like a code to it that shuts the thing off and turns it. Let's you have privacy for a little while. She makes a joke that the code is to tell the robot that she's gonna like change or something like that.
And so after that, Crosscheck goes back home, is continuing to be berated by his parents. They're upset with him, mad that he just got...
Well, before he goes back home, he gets this lovely hug from the Hodag's mom.
Yeah.
And the Hodag's mom thanks him for sleeping with Neon...
Crusader?
No, that's not her name. Neon something.
Oh, right.
And thanks him for giving her a long and consistent fucking of some level. Their words, not mine. Pretty funny. Like Crosscheck's like, that's not why I did this, and she's thanking him for being an adulterer, where literally everybody else in this town hates him for being an adulterer, and it's mostly because this is in like probably the southern parts of Wisconsin. It's really close to the Bible Belt area, and this dude blasphemies a lot. He's even in his parents' house. He's using like Jesus effing Christ, stuff like that. His dad loses his crap, and everybody around him is losing their crap over how he's an adulterer, and he doesn't seem to care about the same values of the people that came up in this town. And then here he is, his villain's mom is thanking him for doing what he does, kind of in a way thanking him for being the thing that dragged Hodag off the damn couch to begin with. Like, appreciates that he probably gave Hodag some of the best years of Hodag's life and stuff before Hodag became damn near brain dead, to the point of Hodag was left drawing and not villaining and not working, just drawing at home, trying not to be a nuisance on his own mom. The drawing kind of reminded me of like what would come out of a person that read Image back in the 90s. Like, they're these like really childish but still superhero bombastic drawings. And I know that I've seen like kids through high school drawing stuff almost exactly like this. It doesn't look great, but you see what they're going for.
Yeah.
And considering this comic is trying to homage all that stuff that came out of the 90s and the Image comics and stuff, I'm sure this was like a Tim Seeley choice to go, yeah, let me give this character something to do. Oh, he's obsessed with villains and superheroes. Why wouldn't he be drawing villains and superheroes in his own costume and stuff like that? And they say that his mother was an artist too. There's like a mural on the wall of the original Hodag that the villain based his character off of. Yeah. But yeah, he leaves, he goes back to his parents' house. He finds his dad there, right? And his dad kind of still gives him a little crap, but is warming up to him a little bit too. Yeah. His dad seems like this like confused type of dude where he's both proud and ashamed of his son. The son has clearly accomplished quite a bit. Yeah. And it sounds like, I think they said he was on that team for 20 years. Yeah. Which makes sense. I think that's another homage joke at comic books that like the Image stuff was pretty popular about 20 years ago or so. I guess more than that now. But, through the 90s, he had a successful career, and then, whatever, into the 2000s. And so he's talking with his dad, and his dad's trying to give him the time of day a little bit more, and says something nice to him. I don't remember exactly what it was, but after that, we go back to these newscasters, right? Yeah. Did you pull anything out of the newscasters?
Not what they said, more the format. That's a very Image. You see that stuff in Spawn all the time.
Oh, yeah. Frank Miller.
Yeah. That's why it's in the Image books. They're all taking it from Frank Miller. But that was a consistent thing in those Image books, was those newscasters. And in the Image books, it's the consistent newscasters. I didn't check if they're the same newscasters that would be in Spawn.
No, I think they're different ones. Yeah. I'm reading Gunslinger Spawn, and Toddy Back just totally did something like that recently. It was pretty funny, though. He has this... Actually, let me not talk about the Gunslinger Spawn book here. Let's stay on topic. Do you want to continue with the summary after the newscasters show up?
Yeah. So Crosscheck is looking kind of warmly on the drawings, and he notices like this name in them, and it sticks out to him for some reason we don't quite understand yet.
Yeah.
And that causes him to decide to deactivate the robot, dress up in like a makeshift superhero thing again.
He comes across a name from an adventure that he had way earlier in his past. It's this like god machine kind of thing that's making something. And they in the first issue, there's the backup where they go and they put this machine down.
Yeah.
And there isn't much talk about it, but here it is in Toadad's like little comic drawings and stuff like that. Mm. So there's definitely some more importance than what it was given in the B story in issue 1.
Right. And shuts down the robot, then takes it out with his, just targeting powers. Then is in like this makeshift superhero gear, and he's gonna go investigate Hodag's murder, more or less.
Yeah. He finally dons the costume that's on the cover of issue 1, which is just this dude in like a ski mask and a hoodie and a quiver full of all sorts of weird tools, arrows, and whatever.
No.
I'm under the impression that he's doing literally everything he can within his ability that he's probably legally allowed to do. So if he can't be Crosscheck, he's got to put on a ski mask.
Yeah.
If he can't use a shield, looks like he's going to use a quiver. If he can't use, X and Y, he's going to use A and B. So it looks like he's going to try and do superheroing without being the superhero that people know him for. I don't know how he's going to be received in that regard. But he's out and he's doing it anyway. And I think that's basically where the part A leaves off, right? Is he's finally donned this outfit and stuff. What do you think about the part A overall, Chris?
I thought it was really good. I think character writing is something that's been very consistent in this series.
Yeah. I
think all characters are both funny and realistic.
Yeah. Would you say that...
I think you empathize with everyone, too.
Yeah, because I felt like this issue was a lot less, like it left the format of the first issue a little bit. The first issue, I felt they were really pouring it on with, this is an Image comic. This is homaging Image comics. This is for people who enjoyed Image comics that are adults now and stuff like that. Right. Whereas this issue felt more like a comic book, a indie comic book.
Well, and I think we had issue 1 to establish that love of Image, so we can move forward into something new. Because I think reworking the past is a big theme of this book.
Yeah. And I reread issue 1 going into issue 2 here. And the beats to make the assumption that he's an adulterer is totally in issue 1.
Yeah.
It just didn't occur to like me and you to like be like, this is definitively what happened. So they do leave it kind of open in the first issue.
Yeah.
But even without reading the second issue through the first issue, that became the vibe I was getting, because they make a joke twice in the panels, not even in the words, where Neon looks at Crosscheck fondly.
Yeah. And
then you want to like figure out, why did he get taken off this team? And everybody knows that he got taken off this team, so he must have done something pretty public. He's not in jail, he's not in prison, so it wasn't anything illegal.
Yeah.
And the only other hints that you get is when the team shows up to serve him, Camo Crusader is not there. And one of the beats in the B story was that Camo Crusader and Neon's relationship was undefeatable, that their love exists even though they have two different opinions and stances on literally everything.
Yeah.
So to see Camo Crusader not there, Neon is there, Neon's not giving him the time of day, there was probably some level of love triangle thing that you can probably put on. I think me and Chris did get that in the last issue summary, but we didn't necessarily know that it was simply him. Simply, he must have got kicked off the team by Camo Crusader for doing this. But now I'm starting to think, maybe Camo Crusader committed suicide. It seems like somebody of that level. Because he's like, okay, Christianity turned up to 11.
Yeah.
But he's also military turned up to 11. So I feel like people of that kind of background might be able to think that the most honorable thing to do after finding out your wife has been sleeping with your teammate for maybe 20 years is to kill yourself. Because the religious zealots, which is who Camo Crusader is, they do some pretty ridiculous things.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been in the comic in the A story at all. Not really even mentioned outside of the relationship that Neon has with Camo Crusader and Crosscheck.
Yeah. And I have been thinking there must be something else too, because the reaction to Crosscheck, it seems like a nationwide thing, even though we are in this Bible Belt where I could imagine adultery being as severe of a crime.
Yeah.
I feel like the reaction to him is a little more severe than it would even be in real life. Just adultery, I don't know that I believe that, like,
You gotta take
this level of vitriol would be...
You gotta take a tourist trip out to that area, man.
Yeah.
People
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. It's like a nationwide thing. So I've always been thinking, like, there must be something else here than just adultery.
It's nationwide because CrossGen is probably the popular superhero team, right? So people probably read magazines about their relationships in the same way that people read tabloids or what Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt are doing and stuff. And I'm sure if we were in New York, people wouldn't care that I'm sure he'd still be cheered in New York. I'm sure that being kicked off of this team wouldn't, in a place like New York, wouldn't really stop him from being celebrated as you saved the world at least once.
Yeah.
Whereas somewhere in the Bible Belt where people don't care what superheroes are doing because God will save us and Jesus will come down from the heavens and wipe our sins away. Who cares about CrossJack?
Yeah.
So that's why he's receiving all this guff, because they really don't believe in the shit that he believes in, more or less. I'm fairly convinced he's no longer as religious as he might have actually been brought up to, mostly because of all the blasphemy and the adultery and everything else he's been accused of. But he's trying his damnedest, that's for sure, in this town, and it doesn't seem like people are receiving him very well. Do you think Farmingdale is the kind of place that would embrace comic books?
I mean, they're probably not really. They might be in, like, the local Rite Aid or something. You know, when Cross was a kid.
Yeah, I don't even know where somebody like CrossJack or the Hodag even, like, got the ideas to be a superhero or supervillain or anything like that. This place doesn't seem like the type of place that would be very catering to the average nerd. It looks like your options are to hunt, kill, do some level of that job, maybe work in like a food processing facility kind of place, like normal, really middle America jobs kind of stuff. I don't know that this place is going to have a lot of comics for this guy when he was growing up and stuff.
Yeah.
I thought that newscaster thing brought us back to the Image comics, and I thought that from that newscaster page on, that we were back to like an Image comic kind of feel, because then he dons the superhero thing. He's being followed by like a Skeets kind of thing. Yeah. He's whereas the first portion of the A story is mostly character development, plot development, actually establishing all these other supporting characters more and stuff. Yeah. I thought this A story was really well put together. Like, again, it seemed like, just like in issue 1, it looked like every page was thought about in where it's placed within the story and confines of the comic book and the context and stuff. Yeah. Really impressed by the way this book is being put together. Do you think the character is ready to do something honorable?
I think as we've found out more about CrossJack, I do. I don't think he's going out of his... I don't think he's doing this to, like, regain his image or something. I think he is doing something.
Feels bad for Hodag.
Yeah, I think he's... Like. I think there is honor in that. He's trying to redeem his friend, or someone he was at least very friendly towards. He died in a really horrific way, too.
Not a way that CrossJack would have seen it, because they even mentioned that CrossJack's a guy who's definitely not going to kill you or hurt you too much. Yeah. That's one of the things that the Hodag's mom mentions. That's why the Hodag appreciated him so much, is because, yeah, they might be fighting, but it felt more like a show, whereas nobody's going to walk away with any injuries that are that severe. Then Hodag steps up for just a moment, and I'm pretty sure it was in the B story in issue 1 that we saw Camo Crusader beating the actual brains out of the Hodag. Yeah. And the poor dude just goes brain dead for as his life after that. Did you read any of the editor's page there, Chris?
No, I didn't. I skipped this issue.
You should read them. It's good. It was on the first page, the editor's page, there's a paragraph. I found it relatable. It said, even as a kid, I felt like I could sense a difference, and he's talking about in how people made comics. Tim Seeley's talking about how he's making this comic, and it starts out, the editor's page starts out with him saying, people always ask me, well, what are the books that I would kill to write? And he lists a couple books, but he lists this book is one of them. He's like, this is the book, it's been a long time coming, I wanted to do something like this for a long time, and to get to do this is a dream come true. And he mentions that you can sense, and he could sense even as a kid, or he felt like this, that when you're reading a comic, you know if the creator really loves the thing that they're working on. And then he cited some examples. He was like, oh, you like Eric Larson's Spider-Man? Well, check out our Eric Larson Savage Dragon, right? Day and night. You like Sam Keith's Wolverine? Well, check out Sam Keith's The Max, right? Oh, you like Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man? Well, check out Todd McFarlane's Spawn. It's just this ongoing examples of, yeah, you could work on these properties, have a good time, get a paycheck and stuff, but then like you go and you look at Savage Dragon, that's almost on 300 issues itself, and stuff, and clearly Eric Larson loves doing this book because it's definitely nowhere near as successful as Spawn. It's never gotten an animated series. It's never been looked at for a movie or anything like that, to my knowledge.
There's an animated series.
I'm surprised by that. Super unsuccessful then.
Yeah.
And so Savage Dragon is still going strong. So that guy clearly loves doing that book. This is one of those books, I think, that Tim Seeley is trying to say, he's having nothing but fun doing this. This isn't even like a job for this guy as much as it is, this is something he wants to do for himself, to pay homage to the people that came before him, pay homage to comics. And then in addition to that, and this is something me and Chris have talked about before, people who are in this industry that are professionals don't read comics anymore, 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Tim Seeley said that he's still a Wednesday warrior. Proud, weekly, Wednesday warrior. That shows up to his shop, and even cites that he's reading 2 ongoing books. One of them I'm reading, it's Darth Vader by Greg Pak.
Oh, wow.
Which has been really good, totally on our honorable mentions, even though it didn't get a release this week.
Yeah.
And then the other one is She-Hulk by, Color Howell. No, that's the lady I like who does art.
Okay.
Rainbow. Shoot, man, I didn't write this lady's name down for some reason. But She-Hulk and Vader are the ones that he says that he's reading every time it comes out. So that's pretty cool. And then there's a whole section where, and in the last issue, where he gives a bunch of titles that you can go and check out on your own that he suggests that he's a fan of. Some of those are Stray Dogs. Yeah. And he mentions that's a book he'd kill to work on too. These are friends of his that are making comics. There's a whole bunch of examples like that, just like his friends' comics. Tom King's got a suggestion in there, and a couple of mostly Image comics, indie books, and stuff like that. Really good suggestions, I'd say. Some of these books aren't books that I'm reading, but they're books I know are well loved in the comics industry. Right. So I know that if Tim Seeley says they're good, and they are already known by a bunch of people, they're probably solid books. Yeah. So that page is totally worth looking at, especially if you're looking for more indie suggestions and stuff like that. Moving on to the B story, right in the middle of the B story and the A story is a pinup cover, yep, which is pretty typical of old 90s Image books. I'm going to pull up this pinup cover since we haven't even talked about any pages to pull up at all. It was fun. I don't remember who the artist was. I should have wrote that down. But what I thought was funny about pinup is it's very religious, but it's also very military. Uh-huh. There's like bombs and stuff going on in the background, but he's also got like a cross right behind him and stuff. He's wearing a rosary, but he's toting guns, you know. And my favorite part is there's 2 lovely, peaceful, white pigeons flying out of literally nowhere. Like, doesn't belong in this scene at all. But these are doves. These 2 white doves are flying out of the Image next to Camo Crusader. This character makes me laugh like nothing else. This is really funny stuff. So B story's pretty simple. It's another flashback. Yeah. And
even further flashback. This is back to when Jack Xavier became Cross-Jack and joined up with Cross-Gen. And he's being their social media person is there, and there's a whole ribbon cutting ceremony kind of thing in Farmingdale. They talk about how they want to open up a superhero school in Farmingdale. Seems like a whole media frenzy kind of thing. Yeah. Not a lot happens, but the real things to pay attention to in the story is Cross-Jack is leaving his small town. And he's not just leaving the small town, but he's leaving behind the small town. Up to and including the Hodag, who I think he just defeated right before they showed up, or like in the midst of this. Yes. And his girlfriend at the time, they didn't necessarily tell us this in the first issue, that it seems like they had gone on dating past high school, maybe even into college, because it seemed like they were still dating when
Jack Xavier joins up with CrossGen, and it looks to us like he leaves Inga in Farmingdale and doesn't give a damn about what happens to her afterward. So if Hodag had motivation to step up and become more of a villain in the eyes of the world, doesn't Inga have the same motivations?
Yeah,
if
or
not,
at least a step up.
or or if not the same motivations, maybe even more of a motivation, because Hodag is just a villain. He already knows his place. But Inga was the lady, the girlfriend, and the way that she was dressed. This is New Jersey. No, sorry, I'm thinking of another book. This is Wisconsin in presumably the 1990s. She's got big hair. She's got hoop earrings. She's got makeup on. She looks nice. It's a media scrum, so she's going to be on camera. She's going through the effort to look nice for her boyfriend who's joining a superhero team. And then what does he do for her? Effing leaves. Leaves her ass. Doesn't even say goodbye. You know? And you get a shot of her looking sad. You get a shot of Hodag looking sad. And then the comic more or less ends. And so I'm still speculating from issue 1, knowing Tim Seeley, knowing comics, knowing how things writing, that Inga's going to end up being some level of bad guy here. And if the Hodag, a normal, presumably normal person, can become a supervillain, and Jack Xavier, who was a normal person, we're not sure how he got his powers yet, can become a superhero, why couldn't Inga, a very clearly responsible, independent woman, also become some level of supervillain?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's where this is going, Chris. I know.
All right.
You take anything else from that B story, man?
Again, the art is homaging image stuff, big calves, playing a lot of these Liefeldisms.
Oh yeah, and it's
That's
toned
all
down a
fun to
little
see.
bit because
Yeah.
this would be the leaving the image kind of way, whereas image books were almost exclusively action every issue, like little to no, maybe a couple pages of sitting around talking context.
Yeah.
But even in those context pages, what were the superheroes doing? Superhero poses and stuff, looking really cool in the panels while they're talking. They're at a media thing. This isn't necessarily an image homage thing, but they are trying to still keep to that art style. And Tim Seeley's doing the art on the back of this. Tony Fleeks is doing the art in the A story. And both of those guys are doing a great job in the panels and openness and stuff.
One thing I do really like is Tony Fleeks is also writing this book to some extent. He's listed as the co-writer, so they're both pulling double duty on this book, like they would in
He's
image
listed
books.
as co-creator. I think that's just a thing that comic book people are trying to do more and more and more, is to properly credit people in comics. Because if you're drawing the comic, I don't care who you are. All right, unless maybe you're working with like Alan Moore or Grant Morrison or Akira Toriyama, where you don't fucking deviate. I don't like to curse on here, but when you're working with people like that, you start deviating, you're not going to be called back to work with this person again. This person's got a very clear and concise story. But most comics, if you're drawing the thing, you're actually directing the entirety of the story. And as a director, your inputs are going to be in there. There's no reason not to give credit to the person who's drawing the thing as co-creating the thing, because that's just the way it is. They are literally creating the thing. I don't know that he has any writing credits, co-creating credits though, for sure. To leave off on, the B story was cited as part 11 of 16, which is, that's really their image homage moment, is when they're making a joke on how we will never see the other 15 parts to this 16-part story. And the fact that this was part 11 and didn't feel like it was part of any other story is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Got anything else there, Chris?
Nope.
Moving right along to
Daredevil number 9.
Daredevil number 9. This was a solid book. We got Mark Cicchetto on the cover there. He does not do the interiors here. But this is probably the only time that I will say that I don't really have any complaints about the art in this book, even though it's not Mark Cicchetto.
No, I liked it.
This dude, I wrote his name down somewhere. It might take me a moment to find out where I wrote it down. Manuel Garcia, Matt Wilson on colors. Manuel Garcia does a great job. I don't know if I've seen him on anything else ever.
No.
I don't
He hasn't
know.
done an issue of this book, at least.
I don't know this dude's art at all, but compared to like Adrian Di Benedetto and was it Mike Hawthorne?
Yeah. Fornes did some work too.
Oh my God! Keep bringing this guy back.
Yeah.
Like shit. I mean, Fornes is fine. It's just not. I don't think he's structured to the story that Zdarsky is telling at the moment. You want to summarize this? I don't even know if I know where to start.
So we pick up with Daredevil is. No, we actually pick up with the Stormwinds. That's where the issue starts.
Right.
It starts with the Stormwinds, who we haven't seen
They are long. They're
before Devil's Reign.
and they're long existing enemies of Daredevil now for I'd say 50 issues. Or
yeah, for this Zdarsky run, they are like the 1% of the 1%. They control
the background,
a lot
of the background, of the background. They're the guys who are supporting Fisk's rise to whatever the heck he was doing.
Mayoral
Forcing Bullseye to go absolutely buck wild and crazy.
Yeah.
Instigating all of the violence and stuff that happened in Devil's Reign.
Yep.
These guys are the Illuminati of the bad guys.
Yeah. And we learned they've been behind the hand too this whole time. They've been financing their operation.
Who's got
Because
the Punisher as the like figurehead?
Yeah. Oh, they did. I think. I haven't been reading Punisher, but they mentioned
this issue in
as
the
an
beginning,
aside.
as they're talking to the Stormwinds. Akka is there talking to the Stormwinds. That's how the comic opens up, and literally an editor's note.
The Punisher has left the hand.
And it's not. Did you look at the editor's note?
Yeah, it's just Punisher.
It's not. Yeah,
It's the
just
current Punisher.
There's
series.
no reference to an issue number at all. It's just Punisher's gone. Reference Punisher. Let's keep this moving.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible. I will say the editors must be listening to maybe me and Chris, because I don't know that anybody else is complaining about this on the internet at all. But they have been. This is exactly what I've been asking for issues and issues now.
Yeah.
This is all I want. It's just a little editor's note that says, we know that this has conflicts with other stuff. See the other material if you want to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so they finally do this. It's forced in there. It had no reason to be there.
Yeah.
But for our continuity's sake,
And also,
was
the last issue was so Punisher heavy, really building on that relationship, and it looks like it's going to kind of fall apart.
it seemed like the last issue was more like a Punisher coming to a head than it was Daredevil coming to a head. Like I could, if Jason Aaron's Punisher run fell flat, go read this Daredevil issue number 8 for the final battle, because it was crazy.
Yeah.
In any case, so Akka's talking to her, or Aka, or however you pronounce it.
Yeah, talking to the Stormwinds. The Stormwinds are disappointed with the Hand. They're not really doing anything about it, but we learned the Hand had been replacing political leaders with these zombies that they control. And since Daredevil has taken this amulet that allows him to control the dead and revive the dead, can't do anything about it anymore.
The Stormwinds were after this amulet. It was really what.
Well, no, they had them. They had it in their pocket, more or less.
Well, they're after keeping this amulet,
Yes.
is what I should say, because this is what's dictating their ability in so many
control
ways,
some
right?
foreign countries.
And so Akka is really the one who was in control of the thing, of this amulet, this talisman. And Akka did not fail to let it go. It seems like in the way she's talking to the Stormwinds that this might have been part of their plan as well. Which is interesting.
But they are, to some extent, disappointed in the Hand, and they're relieving them of their services, is what they're saying.
Yeah.
And that they're going to get someone else to avenge them. That's the key word they use. Avengers are coming for Daredevil. We've known this for issues.
Yeah.
They've been setting up forever.
Specifically Spider-Man.
Yeah. So after that, we get to see Daredevil in this nightmare sequence where he's fighting Fisk, and I think Fisk's son. They don't mention specifically, but that's the indication I get. And he's just fighting him in the streets, and Fisk is kind of belittling him, being like, you're going to be back here again. This whole plan you had, it's not going to work. We're going to be doing this dance real soon again, very shortly.
It's funny how it opens up, too, because, and I'll pull this page up over here. Why not? It's different art than the rest of the book, right?
Yes.
Different suit already. And we've read enough comics. Both of us probably pulled to this page and went, oh, this is the old suit. This must be a dream sequence.
And the color palette is a little loose. It's very neon-y.
And then not just that, but in just the beginning panels, you don't know that it's Fisk. But if you look in the panels, it's two different versions of Fisk. It's Fisk as the smuggler, drug runner that he was when he started, and then it's Fisk as the kingpin crime lord, and they're beating each other up. And that's what Daredevil's coming in to do. And then they make a in-panel, in dialogue reference to the Born Again storyline.
Yeah.
Which was, again, Daredevil reestablishing himself as as Daredevil, coming back to doing his duties, to saving Hell's Kitchen and stuff. So Chris is totally right. Fisk is one of these things that Daredevil always comes back to doing, comes back to defeat, comes back in his life all over again. It's kind of, it's really, in a way, it's monotonous, the Daredevil sequence of story that he's gone through over the course of time, because a lot of it is just redoing the same exact things over and over and over again.
And he's kind of trying to break that in this recent run, especially these last 10 issues or so.
He is,
and he's having this nightmare that he's going to be back to it soon.
And he's kind of, he's just following the beats, because this is not the first time he's left Hell's Kitchen to go and reestablish himself as whatever he thinks he is, find his motivation, find God or something like that.
Yeah.
So he's really, if he's doing like something different, it's not that different.
No.
But then he wakes up.
Yeah, he wakes up. His fever just broke. He got his eye. He was really injured after their battle with the hand. He lost an eye. Stick has some remedy that's healing that, or at least cauterizing it, making it so it doesn't get infected.
Yeah, he's on.
He's healing him up, and he's
the blind man's missing an eye. Oh no.
Yeah. I don't even think that would affect his sensory powers. I don't.
No,
I think they're really just making sure it doesn't get infected.
Literal physical damage.
Yeah. But so Elektra and the Stick are there, and they're burning this talisman in this, like, some sort of eternal flame. They'll eventually melt it down and make sure the hand can't use it. They have to keep this fire going.
Do you think, are you a little lost in the lore at all when you were reading this? Because I don't know that much background on the hand. I get the hand confused with the fist, that I get confused with the foot, because they're all various appendages that are basically just the League of Assassins from Batman. And they're all like shadow zombies pretty often on top of that.
Yeah.
And
then we have the chase, which is like, I think that's what Stick is.
That is.
And
And then there's this talisman. I don't know where this talisman came from. It's called the Lunate Talisman.
Yeah.
I don't know if it had background in Marvel or anything like that. And then further than that, there's a goddamn book that they're reading. They are listening to a book.
Yes.
This book, I don't remember what its background was, like where it came from.
It's like
aside from like it's the prophecy for the hand.
Yeah, it's the Chase's book that they've had.
But like, where did that come from then? Like, where's Doctor Strange at? Where's Doctor Strange to drop in and give us some like, page and a half context to show us that this was like a scheme of Dormammu back in like, 5,000 BC, when he foretold that there'd be an ancient war between, these ancient sects of ninjas and stuff like nothing like that.
Yeah.
So I will admit that this is the only part that Zdarsky, I think, has fell a little short. Is he's not forcing this down our throats, but we do have to swallow a couple bigger pills to just let the story going, because Daredevil is a ground level superhero. Almost not even a superhero, more like a vigilante. And so when you get tied up in all this magic juju and stuff, it's not Daredevil's place to give you the perspective on this stuff.
Right.
That's why I asked, where's Doctor Strange? He could. But we're not going to get that, because this isn't a Doctor Strange book. This isn't an Avengers book. This is very far away from most of what's happening in Marvel.
Zdarsky is very intentionally isolating this character.
Yeah, so it's a big thing. So he's isolating his audience in the same way away from everything else. So that's why you just kind of, there are reasons for this. This is kind of like a good writer thing in a way, I'd say. Maybe not him falling short, but just me feeling like I don't have the right information to really understand every portion of this book. But if Zdarsky doesn't think it's relevant to me, it's not relevant.
Right.
Keep on trucking, So, the fire is burning, Chris.
Yeah, the fire is burning, and Matt kind of ignores Stick and just gets up anyway, but he's not doing any fighting, really, so he's fine.
And they have this conversation, and Elektra says, we did beat them by taking the talisman. But if you remember in the last issue, it was it ended on a conversation between Daredevil and Elektra saying, we lost.
Yeah.
So Elektra, in a matter of days, has changed her opinion. Because she literally says, we lost the battle today, but we have the upper hand, in the last issue.
Yeah.
Then in this issue, she's under the impression that we straight up won. Like, what did she say again? We did it. We beat them. It's over. There's no more war. And when you read this issue, you're probably, I assume Chris is on the same page as I am. I think Elektra's right, especially when it opens with the Stormwinds going, all right, they're going to lick their wounds. Let's lick our wounds a little bit too, you know? Yeah. They have gotten such an upper hand that they won the last battle. There were no casualties. Nobody died in the last battle that wasn't already a zombie or something. Even the dragon flew away.
Yeah.
No, we won't get any elaboration on that, I'm sure. But it ended pretty well. So in the last issue when they said that they had lost, I was a little confused because it seemed like they had won. And then in this issue, it looks like Zdarsky goes back on that a little bit and goes, actually, no, we did win.
Yeah. Or maybe, because a big theme of this issue is, or a big plot element is that even though they won that battle, Daredevil is losing his...
He's losing his shit.
He's losing his shit and he's losing his people. Because people are leaving in mass. I think the immediate next thing that happens is this doctor he's hired as this therapist figure to help rehabilitate all these criminals. He's leaving with a couple of these criminals because Daredevil made his criminals into soldiers and basically walked back everything he's been doing.
Yeah.
They mention Speed Demon now thinks he's some kind of god because of the fight they had.
Some crazy religious battlefield and stuff. I think it's interesting that Matt always thinks that everything is God's plan, that God has a plan and everything's going to go exactly according to God's plan and shit. Yeah. And he's always thinking like, oh, you know, I have to follow what God tells me and things of that nature. And Matt has got to be one of the most ignorant characters that I read in comics. Like to still be this level of religious and have battled with Mephisto and battled with literal like space gods and like gone to Asgard and became the dude with no sight that controls. He became Heimdall. Like to come back to Manhattan, Hell's Kitchen in Manhattan, and go, oh yes, my Lord, save thee, Jesus. Ignorant on new levels, right? And then he's under the impression that this God he's praying to has a plan or something. Such ignorance that the Sasquatch man, Dr. something or other, that he's brought here to be the therapist for all these criminals he's trying to put onto a soldier, literally says, I don't know why I thought this was ever gonna work. Like, the Sasquatch man is just like, this was a bad idea from the get-go. I don't know how I let you convince me to do this. I'm taking everybody and I'm bringing them back home. And also, here's my resignation. And Daredevil loses his crap even further.
Yeah.
So much so, he drops all facades, which he's been trying his best to hold up for 8 issues or so now. And he screams in the middle of his island on his knees into the sky, where literally everybody who's left can see him lose his crap. If your leader, who's been the rock-solid object, loses his crap after potentially the worst battle and experience that everybody's had, that doesn't do well to boost the confidence of everybody else on the island. Daredevil is losing in more ways than one, even though he's kind of doing exactly what he wanted, what he set out to do.
Right. And then the next conversation he has is with Cole.
Yeah. His guardian angel.
He's supposed to be his rock, and he asks Daredevil, like, hey, are we done? You know, we won this battle. And he's like, no, the hand is still around. We have to keep fighting. And Cole immediately drops it. He's like, okay, I'm done. This war is never going to end. I don't know why I thought it was ever going to end. It's much the same way his therapist did. He's like, I don't know why I believed in you. Everyone is losing faith in Daredevil around the same time.
Matt is so ignorant.
Yeah.
He's like, he doesn't see these things happening around him as he's like pushing people away. We haven't talked to Foggy in issues. We know he's been floating around this island somewhere. We haven't talked to him in issues and stuff, right? And this is just something that I've picked up. Frank Castle definitely went over the deep end in the last issue, right?
Mm-hmm. And maybe he took Matt with him.
And Daredevil's telling him in battle, as they're fighting, you've gone over the deep end. They even had an editor's note to a Jason Aaron book where Jason Aaron has Daredevil come in and tell Frank that he's gone over the deep end.
Yeah.
And then what does Daredevil do in this issue?
Go off the deep.
Yeah, he loses his crap. He's not paying any attention. The man who can hear everything on an island, can sense anything and smell everything around him, has an uncanny ability and powers to use his senses around him. It doesn't utilize these things almost at all in terms of normal common sense, common knowledge, paying attention to the things that are happening around you. So ignorant.
The only thing I will say. All right, we'll get to it as the issue goes on.
And let me finish up the Cole area here too. I got a note on this. Cole says, and I quote, "This is never going to end. You can't have it end, and people are going to die." Sounds a lot like what Fisk said in the Dream earlier. Huh?
Yeah.
This is an ongoing theme in Daredevil comics. This might be his mission statement, in fact. It's never going to end. You can't have it end, and people are going to die. This happens every issue. Yeah. Matt goes through, oh, should I be Daredevil? Oh, what does God want? Oh, I just don't know. And it just keeps going and going and going and going and going and going and going. And that's the whole thing. Me and Chris are still here reading this Daredevil run, even though we're reading the same story told in a different way, like over and over and over again. I find that hilarious. On some level, the audience to this book might be some level of ignorant too, because we just keep swallowing like this Daredevil stuff, whereas it's been almost the same story since Frank Miller picked it up back in the late 70s. So it's still pretty good though. So all right, so they stopped talking to Cole.
So I think I got the order wrong, because I think Matt notices something fall as he's talking to Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Because that's when he notices this package, and it's a phone with the Stormwinds on the line.
Right.
And they talk to Matt, and they basically go, you know, we thought you were cute when you stole a couple $1 billion from us, you know, get back to the kitchen. But now you're actually getting in our way.
Nothing falls. Something starts buzzing.
Yeah.
Something starts buzzing, and I'm going to pull up these panels, because this was one of those moments where this artist is really doing an amazing job. They took the buzzing is like a bzz, bzz, kind of onomatopoeia thing. Instead of shoving the onomatopoeias inside of the panels, they use the bzz as the panel. And they do it 3 times. They show Daredevil first at the top of the page. He's like, he hears the sound. There's 3 bzz, like long style panels you guys will see.
Yep.
And he's like running to the snow, climbing up a mountain, finding the thing in the snow. This thing has been there for a while. It's under some snow. It's been buried. He has to dig it up and stuff. And it's the dude, it's the male Stormwind.
Yeah, and they're telling him that, you know, now that they have this talisman, he's finally actually become a problem for them, and they're going to deal with him swiftly and immediately. And that's when Matt, he's like freaking out. He's like, what are they doing? And he comes to a realization on his own that he hasn't been the same since he was in the prison. That the Stormwinds were in, presumably because they use this thing Reside that affects the person's emotions and their anger, and he hasn't been the same since he got infected with that.
Some sort of scarecrow toxin gas.
Yeah, it makes you angry.
Yeah,
and so he's kind of piecing this together, like, oh, I haven't been right at all. My entire mental state has been thrown off by this thing.
Lies, all lies. It's all Matt. We know it. We know it's him because he does this kind of thing on a constant basis.
Sure, but he's definitely being heightened by this.
I don't think, if anything, he's being heightened by the nonsense prophecy and the powers of the island.
Yeah.
I don't think this, like, drug thing they gassed him with is still effective. This is, like, a whole run later.
Yeah.
And there's no signs in the panels itself that this gas is still affecting him either.
No.
If anything, it's just him going, yeah, I'm being affected, which, you know, untrustworthy narrator Matt Murdock is. So who knows? He might be right. He's probably wrong.
I think he is, because almost immediately after he figures this out, they drop it again on the island.
Okay.
And they start pummeling it down with these, and they're like destroying stuff with these like drone planes and stuff. They're attacking the island.
Yeah.
Matt's freaking out, goes to talk to Foggy. Foggy starts like, he talks differently.
Yeah.
And he starts talking to Matt about like, oh god, what do they even talk about? They're talking about what Matt has done, how he's basically
what Matt needs to do.
Yeah. And then he disappears into like dust.
Well, Foggy's like, oh, I'm going to help you out, Matt. I'm going to help you out. But there's something I got to tell you. And at the same time, panel after panel, Stick is talking to Elektra about something as well.
And they both disappear in the same way.
Turn to dust.
Yeah.
And then the reveal is that these are the same things that... Okay, a couple issues back, Elektra goes and assassinates a president, right?
Yeah.
But we find out that the president isn't the president. It's one of the people that the Stormwinds have put into power. She doesn't actually assassinate him either. He jumps out of a window, turns to dust by the time he hits the street. And the Avengers find this, and that's one of the reasons they're tracking Daredevil, is because Elektra had gone to assassinate a president, and they're not sure what the deal is with that.
Yeah.
So now these other dudes that are close to them, Stick and Foggy, also form to the same dust that president does. Elektra now knows exactly what's going on. Daredevil immediately knows exactly what's going on. And then like a panel or two later, there's a good thwip or something. Yeah. And, the island's in chaos. Everybody's running around. The villains are beating on each other. And then the Avengers show up. Very, and it was like the most subtle Spidey entrance I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. Because it's like 3 panels that reminded me of the Bruno Redondo thing where we were talking about in the last Nightwing, where he undoes the stick, unleashes the little bombs out of the stick and stuff. Yeah. It was 3 panels. It's and I'll pull it up over here. It's a thwip. You see a spider web attached to the stick that Daredevil has. Pulls it out of his hand. You see maybe a red hand with some black lines on it, and then you turn the page and there's Spider-Man, big old splash page, and I don't remember what he says, but it's something like "I've come here for you" or "You must stop" or something along those lines or something.
What have you done this time?
Yeah. Both issue 8 and issue 9 ended with the Avengers.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. They're clearly trying to drive the book in a specific direction. And it's so weird how Spider-Man is the driving force behind this and stuff. Yeah. But Spider-Man's not really the avenging type.
No.
He's more like the...
No, but his friend is out of line, so he's just trying to keep him in check, I guess. And that's kind of what he's been doing this whole run.
And it's odd to me that the Avengers would go to Spider-Man. The Avengers can handle Daredevil.
I think Spider-Man went to the Avengers.
I think you're on
likely
the right thing there.
Likely to make sure they don't treat him how he shouldn't be. I feel like Spider-Man knows to some extent Matt has some issues. Oh, the number one thing. We were talking about Matt's religion. When the island is going to hell, Matt has this internal monologue where he goes, God is dead. And he has this realization, God has been dead since Jesus died. All of this shit. There was never a plan. I'm a fool.
If he hadn't lost his crap already, he proceeds to further lose his crap.
He's still being religious, but he's completely abandoned his religious ideals to some extent.
I want to know when he's going to break down and go over to Goldie, that lawyer guy that he's got locked up in a prison cell, and go, all right, tell me what I need to do next. Yeah. Because that's got to be where this is going.
So, I didn't pick up that the way the 2 characters dusted was the same way the Hand had been doing. And the way they were talking, I thought that was Goldie who had been doing it, and that's part of his plan.
Oh.
I'm sure I'm wrong, because I'm sure you're right.
It's definitely the Hand's doing. And the other thing to keep in mind, too, is in the beginning of the issue, the Stormwing guy, he might have been... I don't think he was that sad that they lost the talisman. I think that he literally just had no other use for the Hand at the time. Yeah. Because he's in control of Stick on some level. It seems like Stick and Foggy were... however they existed, they were conscious dust beings. Yeah. With motives of their own, because they needed to sell that they were these characters, and they did a good job over the course of time. But they definitely they have interior, alternative motives planted into their brains somehow. And Foggy's was to delude Daredevil, and Stick's was to destroy this talisman. Yeah. So, which tells me the Stormwinds don't need the talisman anymore. Or maybe they didn't want it to fall into the hands of their enemies, something of that nature. They totally let this thing get destroyed.
Or at least let Daredevil take it, because I think the issue ends without it being destroyed.
No, it starts to crack.
Oh, okay.
It starts cracking. You see it in the panel, only in art. And then, and I think Elektra's still there at the end of the issue, waiting for it to finish.
She's with Daredevil and Spider-Man.
So it's destroyed then. It's successfully destroyed. So I don't know what the deal with this talisman was. Clearly, I said that earlier. I don't know what it is now anymore. Now that it's gone, it was just, I guess, an item to fight over, more or less, in the story. I think my only note that I forgot to mention was that Leonard, the doctor, the Sasquatch guy, says that Daredevil's broken as he's leaving. And that's, again, Zdarsky really selling to us that Matt's lost Matt's lost it. He's fully off the deep end. I don't even think he knows what to do anymore. He's about to fight the Avengers in the next issue for no reason.
Yeah.
You got anything to add on here, Chris?
Yeah, I think this issue kind of renewed my confidence in the run as a whole, because I have been really enjoying this book, but I felt like when the book relaunched, we dropped a lot of plot points from the first 36 through Devil's Reign. I think there's a lot of things that needed to be wrapped up.
Okay.
We're starting to move towards those things as the run is ending, as we found out recently.
Yeah.
We're going towards, the Storm ones were a big thing that I'm like, where are these people?
Yeah.
Mike Murdoch is a big thing.
Foggy.
Yeah, Foggy. But Foggy has been around.
Sort of. The girl that Daredevil left behind back home.
Yep.
There's a bunch of things that he's going to have to wrap up. Goldie, mostly.
Yeah.
I thought that again, go back to the art. This guy, Manuel Garcia, I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah.
I have compliments that say that he has cool blacks, good shadows, good use of textures and stuff. Solid fill-in artist, doesn't make me feel like I'm missing shadow too much. And I like the way that he drew Elektra. She has these big hoop earrings and really strong silhouettes. She looks Greek, which I think is supposed to be her background. It's really big Greek hair and stuff, and the fancy. They're not hoop earrings actually. They're like a triangle cut off at the top to make a weird rectangle kind of thing. Really good little design things that they were doing. Great art, great book, good story.
Yep.
We'll be doing issue 10 when it comes around, I'm sure. Moving right along.
Yep.
All right, to Detective 1070. Show some covers over here. I got the variant cover. Chris got the regular cover. I don't know that these are even that. I couldn't say that these are. I like both these covers.
Yeah.
I think it's some guy named Cagle or something Cagle doing that cover. This is Kelly Jones. He hit a Joker face down here amongst the little pile of the bodies. Me and Chris were talking about this before we started the show here. That this issue, every time we read it, Chris has only been reading it for 2 issues here. Yeah. He jumped on and literally jumped on, is now pulling the book after the last issue that we went over. And because it's so good. This issue takes us longer to read than any comic we're reading.
Yeah.
And it's because of a lot of things, I'd say. First of all, it is 2 stories. There is a B, there is a backup. Right. So that's going to keep you there a little bit longer. It's hard for me and Chris to be completely ignorant to these backup stories because we're a fan of comics, a fan of art. So
especially when Casper Wingard
is on the art. It's tough. It's real tough for me to be completely ignorant to these stories. So that's going to take some time. And then in addition to that,
Randy is very verbose.
She's not just that, but no, I think actually that's a really good word to use. I've talked about last time, I think, that I spoke to this dude at Comic-Con, and I just got to learn a little bit about him and his background, and that's that he's well-traveled, well-versed. He knows comics, he knows the lore, he knows story, he knows how to progress a plot. This guy knows the ins and outs of what a writer is supposed to do, especially in the format of comic books. And something I hadn't picked up on until this very issue. This is going to be going for a while. There's in the intro page, which we don't get until 4 or 5 pages in. Which, by the way, the intro, this thing is filmatic. Mm-hmm. I have no other way to describe how well this thing is put together. The intro page, you get about 5 pages of Solomon Grundy in the beginning of this comic book, and then Solomon Grundy, after he's done kicking butt, finds this girl who's trying to escape the asthma and escape the organs, and she joins up with Grundy, and Grundy, who seems to have a sweet spot for young, maybe not young, but innocent people. Yeah. Sweet spot for people that don't seem like a menace. Mm-hmm. Grundy doesn't seem like the villain who's gonna beat up on a teddy bear.
Yeah.
He seemed like the villain who, if a grizzly bear were to walk into his place, he would probably fight a grizzly bear. But if a cat walks into his place, he's probably going to pet the cat.
Yeah.
He's not trying to beat up on little girls or anything.
He's very much the gentle giant type.
So he literally like rips apart these dudes in the beginning of this comic. 4 or 5 pages of straight Solomon Grundy action, almost no narration, a drop from what we've known in this book for a while now.
Yeah.
Bunch of really cool art on top of that. And then, really subtly, DC Comics presents, at the end of a panel, when Solomon Grundy and the girl are walking into the sewers, you flip the page, and there's this extremely well, gothically lettered intro, and the intro is for Gotham Nocturne, Act 1, Grand Design, Part 2.
Yeah.
A bunch of credits to Ram V, Stefano Raphael is on the art, Adriana Lucas is doing the colors, Ariana Mar is doing the letters, and Manners, I know it is Mar, is doing the letters, and it's just beautiful. It's so like movie-esque how they do this big action, all this stuff, and then they bring you into the comic, they give you the intro. And where I'm going with this is Act 1 of how many? Gotta be 3, usually 3. Grand Design Part 2 of how many? I don't know, probably 4 or 6, usually comic-wise. So, this is Part 2 of Act 1, of potentially 6. So 6 parts in Act 1, 6 parts in Act 2, 6 parts in Act 3. That's 6, 12, 18 issues of Detective Comics.
Looking at like a year and a half.
We're looking at probably more, too, because this book is so verbose? No. Looking for a word that just means robust.
Yeah.
It is so... It's filled with blood and movement and art and context and story and background, and it's just so damn rich. From the stinking intro page. So incredible. I'm so like stoked to realize this, because I've been reading this title for 6 issues already. So they must have done like a prelude to Gotham Nocturne, and then Gotham Nocturne Act 1. So like this I thought this book, I don't know where this book is going, or maybe I do know where this book is going. What I mean to say is, like, I don't know that anybody can plan a run this robust, this rich, and this well-oriented to last for so long. And especially in Detective Comics, where we've come out of stories that came from Mariko Tamaki, who, no offense to her, but she did a silly storyline about like this Gotham Tower thing, just really fell short. And before that was a bunch of, I might be missing somebody, but there was a bunch of Peter Tomasi stuff. If you know Peter Tomasi stuff, I'd say Peter Tomasi is like a comic writer.
Yes.
Is your average comic writer. He's not bad. His characterizations are usually really good. He stays pretty true to characters. And he just does some fun adventure stuff, brings in some cool villains, might have a cool story to tell. I would not characterize Peter Tomasi as filmatic or has even this ability to tell a story this deep, this rich, and this robust.
Right.
This feels like this might be too big of a compliment, or this might be too odd of an association to make. This feels like the V for Vendetta of Batman stories, where we're talking about themes more than we're talking about Batman. And we're just using Batman as a way to drive these themes forward through this story. Would you agree with everything I said so far?
Yeah, I would agree.
Incredible. We haven't even gotten into the summary, really, of this book, and already my jaw's on the table, my eyes are glued to the page. I'm so excited for this to continue. Somebody in the shop here that pulls this book is waiting for it to end to read it. This guy's going to be waiting a while. In any case, man, so I'll try to do the summary with this one. Feel free to chime in when I do a bad job. You got 5 pages of Grundy, right?
Yep.
And what an art change, just on like page 1. I'm going to pull up page 1 here. If you were used to like the Raphael Albuquerque, Yvonne Reis kind of stuff, this is a huge art change from that. Still really, really good, but really different. We move away from Solomon Grundy as soon as the letters goes away, and we have Bruce. I think we fall on, and Bruce has taken a hiatus from Batman. It appears years.
Yeah.
He's taken about a week hiatus, it looks like, and it doesn't sound like that bad of an idea, because in the last issue they established that Renee Montoya was talking to another police officer, and the police officer said there's been no crime, or almost no crime, and not only that, but the usual criminals, the big ones, Riddler, Joker, Freeze, haven't done anything in a month.
Yeah.
So if there was ever a time for Batman to take a break and lick his wounds and feel better after fighting a literal Wolfman and what have you and being ripped apart in several ways, now's the time. And he starts to realize how much he's being ripped apart. And he starts talking about what Jim Gordon was talking about in the last issue, where Jim was like, how far can you take this, man? You know, you're not... Batman might be a mythology, but you're just a man in a suit. There's got to be an end. There's got to be a way. Who's worrying about you? Alfred's dead. Damian's doing his own thing. None of the Robins are living at home. Bruce isn't even living at home. He's living in an apartment somewhere or something. And I think he's thinking all this, and he's going through this narration, which is incredible.
Yeah.
He's going through this narration, and then, like, what's his name? Orgum shows up, right? I'm going to literally pull out this comic. I'm going to go to page 6, and I'm going to read the narration on this, because this stuff is absolutely incredible. I just got to make sure that I get the right page here. I think it's this one. So he says, I'm trying. Every time I pull out the encroaching weeds and sweep aside the tumbled stones and dust, then comes another storm, and in its wake a familiar ruin. Right? He continues to say, never once have I asked myself how long I can keep doing this. Never once have I turned away from the dark. Some really strong words. Unbelievable narration for Batman. Batman's narration is usually pretty dark and like talking to himself and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in this case, he's not talking to himself as much as he's speaking some truth that he needs to hear, because this is the truth that he needs to come to terms with. He's not immortal. He's not going to live as long as the city that he's protecting is going to live for, and he wants to be able to leave it in the best hands as possible. And he keeps on running into this problem that there are always people there to prevent him from getting his goals done. And you know, how many times can he keep doing this over and over and over and over again? Then he starts to question his own motives, right? He goes on from there in this narration to start talking about how there was like, he's starting to imagine that there was this like demon thing that had brought him from his parents' death into becoming Batman. And this might be him just mixing his memories up with his motivations and stuff like that, trying to justify him becoming Batman over the course of time. But we keep getting this image of Barbados in the backgrounds of the panels and stuff, this like Bat God kind of thing. And we've also been talking a lot about magic and the ley lines that are underneath Gotham and things of that nature. And the Orgums using the Arzen are definitely using some level of magic to control Gotham. There's a lot of themes that they're pouring on in just a couple of pages here.
And one thing that's really fun about the dialogue, and I think we kind of hit on that with that quote, it's very poetic. It uses a lot of metaphors, I would say.
He says, I'm a boy raised by gravestones. Mm-hmm. That's definitely what Chris is talking about here.
No, I, for a while, was just... I think you have to read this book because everyone will take away something different, because there's so many good quotes. There's so much... And he really... You know, I think you can get a little heavy-handed when you use poeticism in internal dialogue, but we never get away from that, especially because of how rich the themes are in this book. This is, it's kind of literary the way he's writing this comic. Mm-hmm. So I think that dialogue works, and it's just, there's so many good lines.
Mm-hmm. It's, my note after the Gravestone line is wow narration.
Yeah.
It's
super strong.
I don't know if I've ever heard Batman narration this good.
So, it's not just in character, it's like...
It's harsh realizations that Batman has to make often, honestly.
He's constantly thinking and rethinking himself, going from resolution to, like, I guess disresolution. I can't think of a word.
It kind of reminds me of Matt Murdock a
little
bit. Minus the ignorance.
Yes.
Batman's got a whole different kind of ignorance, where he's got to be Batman no matter what. That's really where he's
invented a bat god for himself.
Yeah, or maybe something's talking to him with the theme of magic. Yeah. We're really unsure here. But Arzen shows up. Arzen Orgum, I think is his name. Oh, the Asmer. There's so many words that are new in this book that I'm getting a little confused here.
Yeah.
But Arzen Orgum shows up, at the graveyard, which is where Bruce is having this whole narration battle in his mind. And it's almost like an intrusion on several levels. It's an intrusion because this is Wayne Manor he's on, where this graveyard is for his relatives. And here is an Arkham showing up, kind of intrude on his territory. And further than that, intrude on his inner monologue. And further than that, Arzen Organ starts to tell him that the house, Wayne Manor, is up for sale.
Yeah.
And that he might be one of the people that are looking to buy it because he wants to make sure that Gotham doesn't have its bones buried and built upon. He'd rather have these things stay strong and exist and stuff like that. And I don't even think that Bruce is listening to him after he says that he intends on buying this thing. Because Bruce puts him down right away and says, "You can't buy Wayne Manor," or something like that. Something really ignorant.
He's saying this kind of because he's taking over Gotham. And Bruce kind of says something along the lines of, "You can't take Gotham from the Waynes. The Waynes have been buried in the dirt of Gotham for centuries."
Which this sounds
another
like...
really good line. I'm paraphrasing, but it was really good.
You're right. Which that sounds like something Arzen Organ would say about his family. Not so much Wayne. So you can feel, just like Matt Murdock in the last issue, Bruce is losing his crap a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's affecting his mind state. It's affecting his ability to be Batman. It's affecting his way. It's affecting his ability to keep up the facade of Bruce Wayne. That was a really proud thing of him to say, like almost a dark thing to say. It's not a very Bruce Wayne thing of him to say. Also, who is this Arzen Organ to him? It's a literal nobody. Yeah. Why would Bruce...
And he's completely let the facade drop.
Yeah, why would he give Arzen Organ any reason to think anything else of him other than he's this playboy philanthropist Bruce Wayne? So, and then Bruce leaves, leaving Arzen Organ, I believe, there at the graveyard.
Yeah.
And that's where the story progresses from there. But before that happens, Arzen tells Bruce of a story about the beginnings of, or who his family is. And there's this story that Arzen tells him that every male in his family has to go on an adventure and come back. It's kind of like a coming-of-age kind of thing. And in the panels they show, I'll pull this one up over here, they show Arzen's father leaving with one other person. And then over the panels and over the story, Arzen's father gets himself killed. He never comes back to his family. And they don't show you who kills him, but they show him surrounded by a bunch of people. Those people are from a city that I believe he wronged, or something along those lines.
I think they go on like these holy crusades, almost like redeem a city. I think that's their whole
right, which is what Arzen's trying to do here in Gotham.
With Gotham.
Right, and so his father found the city, fails to redeem the city, I suppose. Or more accurately,
he's killed before he can do it.
We later find out that there is somebody that prevents him from doing so. So, we're not sure who it is at first. But there's been themes fed to us through here. If we know enough about Batman, and we think, okay, this is tying to Batman. Who's somebody who's lived long enough to have seen this story happen? There's only one dude. One dude, and that was immediately in my mind when I heard this story, because it looks like this happens in relatively the Middle East or so. Yeah. The whole background in the panels and the art shows you like sands, deserts, like things of that nature. And the Arzens, or the Organs, the Arkhams, seem like maybe like a high society English or Scottish or maybe Spanish or something like Italian, something like that. Definitely not Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
And so, but that's where he goes to go and redeem, like as if he's going down into like lesser people, or that they think is lesser people, to go and redeem these lesser people. He might go and offend some of these people that he's trying to redeem.
Yeah,
right?
I think colonization is a big theme they're kind of going on with these people. I imagine they're European.
Yeah, and that further makes sense with Ram V's background and stuff too. So, all right, so if oh man, there's so many ties here, man. So if Orgham's father goes to go and redeem a city and gets put down by somebody probably from that city, from that area, because they don't want his help. And then Orgham gets told to eat shit, essentially, by Bruce Wayne. There are some repeating histories going on here. There are some role reversals going on here. There are some existing archetypes being presented to you directly through this fable that are supposed to lead you into, who these characters are established are within the story we're actually reading. Wow, right? Yeah. Okay. After that, Bruce leaves, and he talks to Babs, I think, for a little while over the headset, on his way to where he's going next. And Babs mentions that cities built on bones of their own buried memories, a really strong poetic term. Babs has been following these little things that Victor Fries has been doing, is trying to also pan that in with what the Organs have been doing, and is also trying to pan that in with where Bruce has been running into these people, and it's created a literal map of Gotham, underneath Gotham, that it looks like one spot's in the Narrows, one spot's in the Warrens, one spot's in, all really important spots in Gotham are where these things keep on happening. Again, with the theme of ley lines and magic, that's always a really important thing when you're trying to cast spells and stuff. It'll be better if you can do it around a ley line where you can pull the magic from the city or the town that you're working in. Right. So Batman goes and does some Batman stuff again. He dons the suit, and he wants to go and find out more about the
Organs family.
No, I don't even think that's where he's going. He tells Barbara to keep an eye on the Organs, for sure. And then he goes to the docks for some reason. I don't remember why. He mentions that, the docks are always busy or something like that, and they've been less busy now, or they've been more busy now, or something like that. He has a reason to go to the docks.
I think he's looking for Talia.
He's not. Oh, yes. Well, he beats up a couple of guys. Yeah. And then he finds out that the League of Assassins are still established, I think, in Gotham. And then he's like, okay, I need to go and talk to Talia. She probably has some beats on what's going on. Yeah. Talia finds him.
Because I'm assuming there's a previous issue where the League of Assassins tried to stop the Organs from coming to Gotham. Yeah. And Batman stopped the League of Assassins at the time. Yeah. And now he's kind of paying for that. Talia's like, I tried to stop them from establishing themselves, because as we find out, the Elder Organ who was killed by Ra's al Ghul. Yes. However long ago.
Yeah. So and totally true. So way earlier, I want to say one of the first issues of Ram V's stuff, the Organs show up to Gotham on a boat, and they're greeted by the League of Assassins immediately. Yeah. And I was kind of confused that whole issue because I didn't know the Organs were. They'd set up that they're pretty similar to a long existing old family, similar to the Al Ghuls. Yeah. So I thought that this might have been a plot done by the Organs, hired Talia al Ghul to kind of show that Gotham needs a savior. Let's have the League of Shadows show up to ruin this entry party. It wasn't sure. So this is finally 6-7 issues later, the follow-up that we needed. Talia's like, no, I showed up to try and take this dude down. This dude is bad news. Yeah. Batman, before I even go into that, he's creating a wake of not bodies, but unconscious bodies is what I should say. He doesn't kill anybody. And that's how Talia finds him, is he's making this really effort to take down these people to try and find Talia. Talia finds him, brings him into her home, which is really well rendered by the artist on this book, which what I said is Stefano Raphael. There's a painting in the background of her room that I'm not sure it's supposed to imply anything. I couldn't take anything out of it.
Oh god, what's it called? It's of the Greek god, the first one, eating his kids. Okay. And it's this I don't think it's after the Renaissance. I know this painting. I take art history. I just don't remember exactly what it is. Nice. It's definitely these. It's playing into the theme of Talia. I think it's the parent eating these kids. Talia is sort of she's the Zeus maybe, because it's that's supposed to be the event that has Zeus. Zeus survives that, what the other original gods don't. Frees his brothers and sisters from his uncle. There's something going on there with family. I imagine that's a note from Ram V specifically.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was thinking the same. I just I don't have that background yet. I'm glad you did pick up on that, because I'm sure that if we teared that apart for a while, we could probably apply that to both Arkham, Orgum, Bruce, and Talia, who seem to be the bigger players in the story so far overall. Talia goes and gives the background that Bruce needs to tell Bruce that the Organs are bad news, even though Bruce has kind of been picking up on this officially this issue. Yeah. And she says that the Organs go on this adventure to go and redeem something to make them deserve the royalty that they have. It's supposed to be this proud kind of thing, not a looking down kind of thing. Yeah. But unfortunately for the Elder Orgum, Arzen's dad, this dude runs into Ra's al Ghul, a young Ra's al Ghul, presumably too, relatively young.
Yeah.
And Ra's al Ghul's not having any of this dude's stuff. Ra's al Ghul kills the Elder Orgum, and so I believe the Orgums know this on some level because Arzen's dad had been accompanied by the same people that are accompanying Arzen to Gotham on his pilgrimage. It's this werewolf dude, this like magic lady, and like this like supporter role guy, bodyguard type dude.
Yeah.
And so they know who Ra's al Ghul is because they must have seen the Elder Orgum get killed by Ra's al Ghul way back when. These people don't look like they've aged once either, so more maybe Lazarus Pit type people and stuff. Again, there's a lot of similarities between these families and stuff. And so there's the story. We find out that it's Ra's al Ghul. One of the things that I'm picking up on here is, all right, so Arzen's dad goes to the city to redeem himself. Gets killed by Ra's al Ghul, who was probably living in the city, probably maybe even a leader of the city.
Yeah.
This is probably Raz's home that the Orgum is now invading.
Yeah.
Let's take this to modern day. The Orgum is now invading Gotham. Whose home is that? Bruce Wayne's.
Yeah.
The Batman's. And what does Batman now got to do? He's got to go and defend his town. So now Batman is playing the role of Ra's al Ghul, which is kind of funny because we recently read an issue by Tom Taylor, Ra's al Ghul One Bad Day, where there was a lot of role reversal between Batman and Ra's al Ghul. They both have really similar perspectives and really similar backgrounds and goals. And so it's no surprise that Batman can be confused with having the exact same motives as Ra's al Ghul. This might even be what Orgum's dad did similarly. Maybe Orgum's dad went to Ra's al Ghul early on and was like, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to know what you think. Same the way that Orgum went to Bruce Wayne a couple issues back. There's some respect there between these two people. And it's mostly because of Orgum seeing what Wayne has done for the city. Probably what the Elder Orgum saw what Ra's al Ghul had done for that same city.
Yeah.
History repeats itself.
And another thing, I forget who says, I think it's Talia, but a major theme of this book has been a personified Gotham that's protecting Batman, but Gotham kind of works to help Batman. So something Talia says, or maybe it was the Orgums, they were backing off because Gotham was protecting Batman.
Yeah.
They need permission from Batman to do what they want.
Basically.
Because Batman is like this mouthpiece for the city almost. In how Ramby has been writing it. So I'm sorry, I can't remember where it came
No,
up.
I understand.
It's around this point.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and they're trying to figure out a way around this.
Yeah,
they know that Batman's going to be continuing to run into their plans, so they got to figure out a way to subjugate Batman so that they don't have to worry about that. So that's their next task, it seems. And Orgum is of the same motives too. He doesn't want to have to run into Batman. It seems like. Something I'm going to complain about the art real quick. Not a whole lot of complaints. I really did like the art.
Yeah.
But when Talia shows up, I thought she looked exactly like Renee Montoya.
Okay.
They're both like darker skin color, long black hair, drawn like comic book women. The only difference was Talia was wearing all white. That was really only that and then we find out immediately it's Talia in the next page. It wasn't a problem, but sometimes comic book artists have a little difficulty,
distinguishing
characters. Yeah. So that was a little something that they fell short on. But something that they were strong on was after the whole Orgum conversation that Bruce has, they leave and then it's all Batman stuff after there. And the pages get a lot darker. In the beginning of the book, it was Solomon Grundy. It was dark for 5 pages. But all of the Bruce stuff, while he's at the graveyard, the sun is out. It's daylight. It's nice. There's grass growing, green growing. It's very bright. And then as soon as Batman's traveling through the city, you get dark panels all over again. Good themes, good art, continuing that kind of thing going on. There was something else that I noticed. This doesn't happen in comics often at all.
Yeah.
There was a homage to another artist in the interiors.
Yeah, was it the Gideon Falls looking panel?
No, but I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to say that I've totally left this in my notes from Daredevil. I thought that the artist, this guy Manuel Garcia, looked a lot like Andrea Sorrentino.
Okay.
So it's funny you mentioned Gideon Falls. But no, more specifically, there was when we finally see the young Ra's al Ghul, it's on the bottom of a panel over here. I'll probably
Oh
pull
yeah,
up.
it was like a Neil Adams. Wasn't it like the side headshot?
It's a side headshot, but it wasn't a Neil Adams homage. It's a homage to this guy Sergio Topi.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with the guy's stuff. I had to Google him real quick, and even after a Google search, I don't know his stuff. So this guy, Manuel Garcia, I'm under the impression is not an American. Is probably from Europe or something. That seems to be where DC and Marvel keeps getting their artists these days. So he's probably referencing a European artist that me and Chris just aren't familiar with. And I don't know that it was even, I don't know why or how or what reason, or I couldn't tell you. After a Google search, I had no idea. But I thought it was interesting. You don't see homages in interiors directly, and people saying after, in the interior.
Yeah.
I was pretty impressed. All right, so there's the last beat in this book that really deserves to be talked about is before I get into the last beat, when Batman dons the costume and getting to go and do Batman stuff, it feels like Batman's renewed a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he's had a week off, he's had that talk with Orgum, he's reconstructed his mind a little bit, he's ready to go and be Batman again, but he's renewed in the worst way possible, I'd probably say. He's not renewed in he's renewed with his usual vigor to destroy the opponent. He's renewed in he's really unsure right now.
Yeah.
He's renewed as in this is a different version of Batman where Batman needs to do, and he says it in the book, a bunch of research. Yeah. He's not going into anything blind anymore because he has no idea what's going on. And for issues, I've been in the same boat. And I still don't necessarily know where the storyline is going. I have an idea of what Organ's intentions are, but I can't imagine it's the same story that we've beaten into the Batman books where he's going to burn the city again and take over all over again. Yeah. There's got to be something else that's going to come out of this. We may see a whole new version of Batman by the time this whole Gotham Nocturne story is over and done with. Mm-hmm. Detective Comics might change altogether. I'm really interested in the direction that's going.
Yeah.
Last thing that we end up on is Babs as... what is she called when she's in the chair? Oracle is sitting in her chair. She's doing her Oracle thing. She's eating a cookie or something. And she gets interrupted. Somebody comes in, surprises her. She throws a batarang at him. It's this character named Arclight who's got a shiny faceplate. It's got arc light coming out of it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Very polarizing to a guy like Batman. And he's like, I'm here, but it's okay. I'm not threatening you. I have some information for you. Here's some information. And he talks about how he's on a team with a couple other people called the Vigil, where there's an Oracle type person and a Batman type person, and then basically a Signal. This guy would be the Signal, the daylight kind of guy. And then there's a reference to a mini-series spinning off called The Vigil.
Yeah, they plug it at the bottom of the end of the comic.
Which will probably provide further information on who these characters are. Yeah. This was perhaps the only distracting thing in the issue. Mm-hmm. The only thing that fell a little flat. It felt a little forced. I'm sure that Ram V is going to write the Vigil comic, but I don't know that it's really necessary to the ongoing story that is Batman. And if it was, why wouldn't it have been in the backups of this comic book for this entire story? They mentioned the Thelamis drive. That is what they really drop on Barbara's. This Thelamis drive is where the Orgums are going. This is what they wanted, and that's where the Thelamis drive is something that came out of the recent Detective Annual that I don't think Chris actually got a chance to read. The Detective Annual plays into the history or repeats itself thing. Was about a town, maybe even Gotham, way back in the day, where there was another vigilante type who also donned a bat kind of costume to prevent the Orgums from doing what they did. He succeeded in driving the Orgums out of Gotham, but he didn't succeed in preventing them from getting this Thelamis engine thing, this Thelamis drive. And I'm under the impression that Thelamis is some sort of god. I think they were even telling me it says it's an Egyptian, an Egyptian god, old buried gods. So there's this god theme going on. Chris noticed the god the art in the background, Italia's thing. There's so many themes going on here, building on buried bones, building on existing religions, building on the stones that every city trying to redeem cities. There's a lot of allusions to Batman being a city himself, being the city, and if you're going to build in the city, then the city's going to defend itself, and that's what Batman is he's he's the avatar of Gotham and stuff. So many really good themes in this book. Arclight disappears on Barbara, kind of like in the same style that Batman does, but opposite, right? Instead of Batman, like, you turn and Batman's not there, Barbara's staring right at this dude, and this dude blinds her with light and then disappears. So I thought that was pretty funny. And that's about it, right?
Yeah, for the A story.
That summary took forever because this book is robust, so filled with stuff. It's really amazing.
And we did kind of break the summary down as we were doing it too, so that takes some time.
Oh yeah. All right, last but not least, we have Dark Knights of Steel, but unfortunately, we are out of time, the Weekly Wednesday Warriors. We spent too much time talking about Detective Comics, which should be no surprise. That book is really good. Yeah. Dark Knights of Steel does replace that. I would say is if not just as good, maybe a better title. Just ran out of time here. You guys have our apologies. Should still read issue 10. It was a really cool issue. Real super quick summary. Martian Manhunter is Alfred. He tries to tell us about his homeworld and stuff, and why he's here on the Earth. The three queens take all of his words because he's under the lasso of truth as writ. They then know who their enemy is. It's this guy Protex that comes from the Martian Manhunter world. Right. Protex also at the end of the issue kills the Joker / Lex Luthor, or at least drops him off of just like drops him from the sky. And takes the Green Lantern wing that Lex Luthor has been wearing this whole time. Great art by Yasmin Putri. Great words by Tom Taylor. The art marries the words like nothing else I've ever seen. Really stunning stuff. Yeah. Great colors. Even the letters are awesome. Even the cover, just the dichotomy of like King Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor Joker being the enemy of both the L's and Bruce Wayne at the same time. And
as we find out, this is also Protex, so it's the king of the Martians too. So it's the two opposing forces in this war, as we find out.
So there's a lot of themes going on here, a lot of great stuff. We just don't want to spend a whole lot of time here because we are out of time. Please continue, follow, subscribe our stuff. Check out Power Card Games and Comics' Instagram. We're going to take a week off next week because of Easter, so happy Easter to you. Happy Easter to Daredevil fans, Matt Murdock. Weekly Shonen Jump is coming up in a couple weeks. The April 2003 issue, our 20th anniversary review. Please check it out. You got anything to add over here, Chris?
Nope. Have a good one.
Take care.